What's up, guys? Welcome back to Fit Body Secrets, where my mission is to bring you guys inspiration, motivation, and a ton of tips to help you guys on your fitness journey. And if you're watching live on YouTube, I actually changed my location today. I am usually in my office, and I'm going to be honest, I have really got to do something with my office. In reality, I've got to do something with my entire house because I've been in this house now since October of last year, and I have yet to actually do any kind of decorating aside from like the basics. And I just feel like in my office, I'm kind of just, I don't know, I'm not happy. And I've been doing a lot of my work just from my kitchen area, like I'm like the countertop area. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to podcast from my living room area today, just be in a little bit more of my flow state. And today's episode is going to be talking a lot about the difference between nutrition philosophies when it comes to training for performance versus aesthetics. And I thought it was a great time to do this as we are getting into the fall season. And a lot of you guys are obviously coming off of the holidays of, well, I shouldn't say holidays, but the summer vacations and being less structured. Also just looking at, if you are following CrossFit as a sport, looking at the displays of athleticism that you all just witnessed between the CrossFit Games and then the CrossFit Games Masters and even the team divisions, if you guys were able to catch any of that stuff. I still have to do my own replay on a lot of that stuff because it was definitely a lot to follow. And I don't like to watch things like that live. I'd rather be able to watch it where I can like fast forward and rewind and all that kinds of stuff. And so that's probably what I'll do over the weekend. I'll binge watch some CrossFit stuff. And but I think that there's a lot of things to kind of tease out when we're talking about nutrition for performance versus aesthetics. And I want to start by talking about the Instagram highlight reels. I think that a lot of people, and it kind of sucks, but we look at the people that we see on Instagram and that becomes what we think is reality or achievable. And a lot of times we're not realizing that a lot of the photos and a lot of the pictures and the videos that you see of a lot of people with the physiques that you want are often filtered, or they're often a snapshot of that person's life, not the way that they live year round. And the bodybuilding community is a great example of that. A lot of people will put photos of themselves when they're training, getting ready for their peak of their competition, or even CrossFitters in the summertime are often a little bit leaner as they're getting ready for the CrossFit Games because their volume has really increased and they definitely look really jacked. But that's not year round. And it can be really sometimes, I don't know what the word to use, but it can make you feel a certain way. Like that's the expectation that you have for yourself. And I want to really, get you guys to understand the extremes of things, but also hopefully give you guys a middle ground where you can realize that you can actually have both. You can actually live in a body that you feel really proud of and that you can go out and be in a bathing suit and be proud of that and be happy and take pictures with your kids, but also be in the gym and be fit and lift heavy weights and do really fun things. And that really is my mission. But it does come down to showing you guys a lot of the differences between the two types of eating and how to kind of find that middle ground for y'all. So without further ado, let's get rolling. I got some notes here to pull up really quickly. Okay, so what is the main difference between performance-based nutrition and aesthetics-based nutrition? And I'm going to tell you that the main difference really is when you are training and eating for performance, you don't care about your abs. You don't care about what the scale weighs the next day. When you're eating, your goal is like, I need to get enough calories in to fuel my workout, to recover from my workout, to make sure that I am going to perform at my absolute best. When athletes are training primarily for performance, that's what their main goal is. They don't give a shit about how they look in the mirror. Now, doesn't mean that they're not going to have insecurities, but it just means that when it comes to their nutrition, they're not worried about eating too many calories. They're worried about eating too little of calories. They are worried about being in a calorie deficit and negatively impacting their performance. And that is truly what eating for performance is. When you are training for aesthetics, your main goal is, I want to look a certain way. And I know that in order for me to look a certain way, I have to be more calorie conscious, cotton conscious. I have to make sure that I'm not putting too many calories in. And when you're training and you're eating for aesthetics, oftentimes you will see that your training isn't going to feel optimal because you aren't eating in that way. You're sometimes a little scared to eat that way. And I want to also start by saying these two examples are extremes. They're extremes. When I'm training and eating primarily for performance, it's an extreme that I'm talking about. Like I'm going to pump those calories in as high as I can. And when I'm eating for aesthetics in that extreme state, I'm eating solely for aesthetics. I don't care so much about my performance. I want to look a certain way. I'm okay with not lifting as heavy. I'm okay with not moving as fast in the class. I more care about how my body gets the response from that and how I'm going to look aesthetically. And both of these things can actually have a negative impact on our overall health. Being in either end of the spectrums, the CrossFit Games athletes going into competition aren't always the healthiest. They might not have like a, cold or a flu, but they're also dealing with a lot of things. In fact, a lot of retired athletes openly talk about this, the fatigue they feel, the puffiness they wake up with, the sleep problems, the aches and pains and all that kinds of stuff. And the super lean individuals that you might see at the gym that you inspire or you're inspired to be like, or the people on social media, don't talk to you about how they're hungry all the time, how they have to be very careful about when they go out to eat, how they, live out of Tupperwares, how they pack food when they travel, how they feel tired, how they don't feel strong. There's a lot of things and how they could be injury prone. On both ends of the spectrum, there can be problems. And the goal really with people that I work with is to help you guys understand how to have a little bit of both. And that comes with moderation. I think that CrossFitters in particular, we're very hard at moderating things because we just know most of us know one speed. We're going all in and that's just the way we roll, right? But that's really the main difference between training for performance versus aesthetics. Okay. So calorie conscious people are more in the aesthetic realm. Performance-based people are more in the let me eat as much as I can to fuel my performance. So what it really comes down to is aesthetics-based is you're eating for specific physique-based outcomes. And when you're athletic-based, you are focusing primarily on performance-based outcomes. And I just want to say that because I was just kind of reviewing my notes. Now, let's talk about what it looks like to be moderate, okay? The majority of you guys out there are not training 3 to 5 hours a day like a CrossFit Games athlete. The majority of you out there are not looking to go step on a stage and do a bodybuilding show. Both of those things might be something that you're chasing. I don't know. And we can talk about those extremes as well. But most people are training at the gym 45 minutes to 90 minutes a day, 4 to 6 days a week. You have a full-time job. You've got kids. You've got other responsibilities. Or maybe you don't, and you just value your health and fitness, and maybe you do put in a little bit of extra time at the gym. But you're looking for moderation. You still want to be able to enjoy yourself a little bit, and you should. In fact, CrossFit Games athletes and people in that extreme world, they do as well, just in a different time of their year. And I'll talk about that later when we talk about periodization. But for most of you guys out there, that's what you are. You have other commitments. You want to be able to live your life without being consumed with your training and your nutrition. And you want to look good, but you want to perform good, right? You'd like to see some PRs. You'd also like to be able to take your shirt off at the beach and feel proud of yourself, right? Or maybe it's not even at the beach. Like I said, maybe it's just the saddest thing for me is a lot of people that are afraid to even show up in photos with their kids. They're always behind the camera. They're never in front of the camera. Like, I think that those are things that people don't talk about. So I think finding the balance between the two is really what a lot of people are looking for. And that can be really challenging because there's so much conflicting information out there and people go about the aesthetics form or the aesthetic side of things the wrong way. And that can lead to negative performance changes, which can also kind of be depressing. I get that. Like when you're in the CrossFit space and you're seeing PRs, that stuff builds confidence. And then like you don't want to go on a diet and then all of a sudden all of those things start to kind of go down and now you feel like shit about yourself. The one thing that gave you confidence again is like, well, this sucks. Now this sucks too. Like, where am I getting any wins? So my goal is to give you guys the blend of the two. Okay. So first things first. All right. When we're talking about nutrition for performance versus aesthetics, I'm going to get into this a little bit. Whenever we're developing a plan, like let's just say right now, you're listening to me talk and you're like, all right, I know I need to dial in my nutrition. I need to know where I'm at. Okay. Where I need to go. Where are you right now? And we're not going to talk about extremes. We're going to talk about health. Okay. Because at the core of CrossFit, there's the health continuum. I don't have a whiteboard here and I probably should. Maybe I'll do a little whiteboard one next time. But on one side, you've got sickness. And then the other side, you've got fitness, right? Like we wanted to kind of go from sick to well to fit. That's the goal. And so you have to kind of know where you're at on the spectrum in terms of your overall body composition. And I talk about body composition more than I talk about body weight because it's more relative. And no, I am never going to tell somebody what body fat percentage that they need to be healthy, because everybody is going to be their best self at a different body composition. But I am going to throw some ranges out there. Okay. So for most women, 20 to 24% is a healthy body fat percentage. You're still going to have a cycle. You're going to look lean. This is a very, I would say, sustainable, healthy lifestyle. And I think it just supports overall general health. As some people can get leaner than that and still be healthy, the leaner you get, the more changes to your lifestyle, the less flexible your lifestyle will become. You will have more structure and routine into things. For men, I would say it's anywhere from like 15 to 18%. Men can be a little bit leaner. But again, the leaner you get, the more structured and routine your life is going to get. And it's going to be the same thing with your pursuits in, obviously athletic goals. If your goals are to qualify for semifinals or games, your lifestyle is going to have to change much more than just like recreationally going into CrossFit competitions, on the fly and maybe becoming a quarterfinals athlete. Like, so there's a different level of commitment the further off you want to go. Okay. So where are you right now? All right. So for a lot of people, fat loss and weight loss is going to get you fitter and healthier. And that's an okay thing. It's okay to chase fat loss. For some people, I find that they're chasing fat loss when in reality, their real goal should be honestly optimizing to build muscle and to stay at the same weight and optimize their body composition. And this can be hard, especially in CrossFit, when you start focusing on the scale rather than how you look and how you feel. I think that people look at the number on the scale and they like to compare it to other people or even a past version of themselves and they didn't have as much muscle. Body composition matters so much more. So where are you now? Okay, so for a lot of you guys out there, it might be, I'm carrying some excess body fat. I know that losing this body fat might help me perform better in the gym, but also will help build my confidence in my body. These are people that should actually be chasing fat loss. And I know there's this whole you shouldn't have to lose weight to get better at gymnastics. And I do understand what people say when they say that. Obviously, yes, getting stronger, being able to do more pull-ups is going to get you stronger. But in CrossFit, we do a lot of kipping movements and a lot of dynamic stuff. And if you are carrying extra weight, you are putting yourself under more load. And that's a lot of stress on the joints. When you run, you're putting more stress on your body. So there is a purpose for fat loss. And I would say if you have more than an extra 15 pounds to lose, then it's okay to chase fat loss. And this can have an aesthetic and an athletic benefit to it. But if you're at that place where you just have a little extra fat around your lower belly, not a whole bunch, your nutrition habits are pretty dialed in, sometimes chasing that little bit is going to come at the detriment of your health and also lead you to more injury, possibly, and maybe even some negative performance changes. So we want to make sure that you really identify where you're at right now, okay? Or maybe you think you want to get leaner, but really you don't need to lose weight. You actually need to build some muscle. And this can be a hard thing to convince somebody of, is like, you actually need to put on weight. I think about how my body has changed since starting CrossFit. I was barely 100 pounds soaking wet. And did I go a little bit too far in the extreme? Yes, but that's because I came from such a restrictive background before CrossFit. And I do think that a lot of that was my hunger and my leptin levels and everything. They just were, I basically was brought into a nutrition philosophy where it was like, eat as much as you want and you're okay. And that food freedom was like, thank God, because I just spent the last 6 years of my life eating 400 calories a day, so I did go a little bit too far off. I think I found my happy place, and I'm not going to talk about my journey right now, although I'm sure you guys all want an update. Maybe I will give a little bit of an update because I'm feeling pretty good. But yeah, so you have to know what end of the spectrum you're on. So right now I'm in a building phase. I'm trying to build a little bit back on. And I do see some comments, guys. I will pop over there, but I want to make sure I keep myself focused. So when you guys are talking about where you're at right now, I want you guys to look at metrics outside of just the scale. Okay. I want you to look at benchmark workouts, so like, what are your run times, your gymnastic skills, your lifting numbers, looking at all of those things along with your training age too, because obviously if those things aren't great, whether it's your lifts, your gymnastics, your running, and you're just starting out, like, you're brand new, right? So you're going to see some gains. Taking photos and even measurements aside from just looking at the scale, because 135 pounds at a lower body fat percentage is going to look very different than 135 pounds at a higher body fat percentage. And I just gave that as a general number because that's my goal number. Which I shouldn't talk goal numbers, but that's my goal high. Okay. So I'm looking to get to 130 to 135. So we want to kind of know where we're at on the spectrum and using other metrics to kind of gauge that. And with using performance and, obviously photos and stuff like that, we can kind of attack both. All right. So here's where we're going to kind of talk about the nutrition philosophies based on your specific goal. If you are needing to lose weight, you need to lose, so fat loss, so the whole body recomposition thing. Okay. Like, whenever I talk to people about this in my nutrition strategy sessions, I have to always remember that they have to have a primary goal. So I'm like, if people are like, I want to lose fat and build muscle, that's what everybody wants. That's the goal, right? We should always be looking to build muscle, but some of us have the extra fat. So if you have that extra fat to lose, we've got to create a calorie deficit. And I actually just put an Instagram reel out about this because a calorie deficit sounds super simple. Oh, okay. Just eat less than I'm burning and lose weight. But a lot of people don't understand the little things that are going to impact that calorie deficit and how that can be challenging to navigate, especially if you're doing CrossFit and your workouts are really glycogen depleting and leaving you really tired and fatigued. There's things that we have to navigate that can sometimes impact both calorie expenditure and calorie intake. Okay. So if you need to lose fat, we've got to create a calorie deficit. All this other bullshit that you guys are following around, you got to do the carnivore, all that stuff. Surely it can all help you, but the only way it's going to help you lose fat is if it creates a calorie deficit. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to argue that the only reason it helps improve anything else is because you're likely getting more nutrients and less calories. You have less body fat, because I can talk about how body fat also does cause some excess inflammation. If you have excess body fat, causes changes in hormones and all that kinds of stuff. Okay. So if you need to lose fat, we've got to create a calorie deficit. Okay. Calorie deficit isn't just based on what you're eating today and tomorrow and for 7 days. It happens over time. 21 days to 28 days, 35 days, 42 days. That's how long it's going to take for you to shed weight. You have to commit to a lot longer than you think. Okay. If your goal is to gain, you've got to create a calorie surplus. This can also be very complicated. Something that I've experienced right now, as I'm now in week 6 of my journey, week 7, somewhere like that, is that hyper responders. So sometimes as you're burning more or as you're eating more calories, your body's burning more calories. I love when women come to me and they're trying to lose weight, and I'm like, we got to increase your calories. And they're like, I'm eating more and I'm losing weight. I'm like, your body's having a positive metabolic response. I get it. It's happened to me. It's happened to me a lot in the last 4 to 6 weeks. And it can be exciting, and it can also be scary when it stops too, because you're like, what's going on? Body's catching up a little bit. Okay, so we have to create a calorie surplus if our goal is to build. Now, I will say this, you can lose fat much faster than you can build muscle. So I can be a little bit more aggressive with fat loss. I'm not going to be as aggressive with muscle gaining because I know that there's going to be little return if I put on too much body fat. It's just not going to work the same way. You can really only gain maybe half a pound of muscle a month, maybe 3/4 to a pound if you're a natural bodybuilder, a natural lifter, or brand new. Maybe you can lift a little bit more. You can add, you can put on a little bit more, but it's very, very small. Now, if your goal is simply, I just want to optimize my nutrition to perform my best, I'm happy with where I'm at, I just really want to perform, you are literally trying to push the envelope. You are pushing the envelope to see how much you can eat and really getting that number up so that you can actually maintain while improving your performance by fueling yourself for recovery and all that kind of stuff. You are literally trying to put as much in as possible. And that's really the main difference between those 3 states. Okay. So a couple of things that I want to kind of talk to you guys about too when it comes to this kinds of stuff is that even myself, you don't know what optimal feels unless you've ever been there. Okay. So when it comes to creating any changes to our body composition or making changes, nutritionally for performance, until you've ever actually optimized, you don't know what that feels like. And that's why I always like people to know where base is. And base is like the maintenance. It's pushing the envelope to see how high we can get. If you've come from an extremely restrictive background, I always recommend starting at base, because for a lot of you that have done that, if you start dropping right into a fat loss phase, it's going to feel just like every other time did. Like you're putting so much effort in. And sometimes you just need to be able to be like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to just be at like my best, like not stressing about food for a couple weeks and like enjoying food and like, wow, this is great. And that's the best way to maintain. So you truly don't know how good you could feel until you've optimized. So I always try and get people to start off at optimal first, and then we can kind of adjust from there. Okay. You also don't know how bad you feel until you feel better. And, I will be honest, this is something that I've experienced as I have been increasing my calories. Like I haven't really talked. I mean, I've talked a little bit about my story in like little chunks, and I probably should do an update, but, like going into like the stress that I was under and like probably the last, I would honestly like to say it started like just after the games in 2021. Right about then is when like things just started to kind of fizzle. But last year surgery really got the worst of me. And with that and like life stuff, like I didn't realize how bad I felt until I started to kind of feel better, and it can be eye-opening. Like lifting right now feels so different than it did 3 months ago. So that's the kind of stuff I want you guys to know. You don't know how bad you feel until you've ever optimized. So whatever your goals are, always work on optimization first. You also don't know how much you could be eating and losing weight, which is also exciting. So now I want to kind of break this down for you guys, because the one thing that I want to talk about is the commonalities no matter what your goals are. So I just mentioned talking about starting at base. Okay. So my nutrition approach, and I will say I feel like my nutrition approach is probably, I don't want to say it's the best, okay, but it is the most science-based, and it's also the most flexible, and it kind of allows people to build something that is actually sustainable, because there is no specific rules aside from the basic rules that should apply to every diet, okay? So first and foremost is the foundation. When it comes to building a nutrition program, and I'm not going to go into all of these, I actually have an episode where I've talked about this. You got to have basic meal structure. So eating good quality foods, also having the flexibility and I would say the mindset that it's okay. You don't have any bad, good food mindsets. It's just like you have foods that are obviously more expensive on your calorie budget than others. And you know how to find the balance between the two. You're getting in enough nutrients from fruits and vegetables, complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, but you're also able to like have a couple of meals where you maybe have a cookie or you go out for sushi or whatever it is that you enjoy. I don't know, glass of wine here and there. You've built that flexibility in your diet, but you have a really solid base. Okay. So in the words of Greg Glassman, eat meat, vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. I think that that's an extreme, but keep intake to levels that support performance, but not body fat. Those are extremes, but like that really is, if you lived in 80% of your life like that and the other 20% of your diet was flexible, that's a great way to start your diet. Okay. That's a very healthy diet. Now, from there, you want to make sure you have good meal structure. So I think that a common problem that I find is that people are trying to dial in their nutrition with macros, with foods, but they're not looking at nutrition habits. Like, how many times a day are you eating and what do those meals look like? A lot of people just randomly grab things out of the cabinet. They just do whatever. They don't have a plan. They're cooking and they're snacking, and those habits are habits that we want to break if you're looking to optimize your nutrition for a healthier lifestyle. Does it mean that you can't ever just randomly, like your kids like, Mom, you want a bite of this? No, you should totally be able to do that every once in a while. But if it's like a daily occurrence that you're like grabbing M&Ms out of the freaking dish at work or whatever it is, like we want to kind of break those habits and build structure and routine. And what I find is that a lot of people just don't have enough structure in their regular meals and snacks. And that tends to lead them to do those like little grab and go things. Now, obviously, every once in a while, we think snack is going to hold us over, right? Like, so it's after school or after work and you got to take the kids to practice. So you're like quickly grabbing something until you get home for dinner. That's okay. But it shouldn't just be like this random throughout the day. We're just grabbing things. Okay. So solid foundation to food quality, meal structure and balance. And then from there, we're looking at calories and protein intake. So we're obviously making sure that we're controlling calorie intake by keeping measurements of our foods. Yes, spending time actually dialing it in with a food scale, knowing what portions look like, and also ensuring that we're getting enough protein. Haven't even talked about macros yet, because right now the point is like you should be having some balance to your meals. And then when it comes to the macros, which is the next thing, we're looking at most performance-based, and those of you guys in CrossFit looking for optimal nutrition that's going to support aesthetics and athletics are typically going to be a little bit higher carb, lower fat, because our type of training is very, very, very glycolytic. We burn a lot of carbohydrates for our intensity in our workouts. And for us to optimize that, we want to make sure we're getting enough carbs. Calories are going to control our weight and our body composition, but those carbohydrates are going to fuel our performance and fuel our training so we can get more out of it. That's really the main goal, is optimizing that kinds of stuff. Now, those of you guys that don't do CrossFit or you have a more sedentary lifestyle, then you can play around with different splits. But for most of you guys, it's at least 40% of your diet from carbohydrates. So we've got the food quality, we've got the meal structure, we've got calories and protein. Now we're looking at macros. And then we're going to be looking at things like supplementation. And for a lot of people that are, first meal timing. Those of you guys in the CrossFit space, or you guys are performance based, meal timing does really matter. You want to make sure you're getting in some calories around your workout so that you're not tanking your energy throughout the rest of your day. Or if you're not working out until later on in the day, that you have enough energy going into your workout so that you're not tired and then you're just like plugging along trying to get through it. You want to make sure that you're getting enough calories around your workouts. And then we talk supplements. Supplements are like the top tier. You don't need a whole bunch of supplements to be successful. I think creatine, a multivitamin, fish oil, vitamin D, those are kind of my basics. And then from there, we can kind of talk about some other things that might help with performance, like caffeine, beta alanine. Some people do well with like magnesium, other specific things that might help you with recovery. But that's really nutrition in a nutshell. I will also say the last thing I'm going to talk about is you might also see a lot of like CrossFit athletes, or performance-based athletes doing things like eating gummy candies or talk about their post-workout donut and stuff like that. All of those things, like, they have such a high calorie need that oftentimes you have to eat more processed foods in order to hit those calories. And I've experienced this right now in my own journey of being in a surplus. I'm being told, like, you've got to eat more calorie dense foods. You've got to eat more processed foods because the amount of calories you're eating, it's hard for you to eat it with eating only clean things. And it is hard, but I also know like it's also part of life is being able to enjoy more of these foods, right? It doesn't mean that you can't have those things if your goals aren't performance based, but a lot of times you have to remember that you got to cover the basics first. So those things should be on top of the optimized base nutrition. That's the overall goal, is it shouldn't be replacing the nutrition. So I don't want you guys replacing your sweet potatoes, your apples, your nuts and seeds with cookies and Oreos. Every once in a while, yes, it's flexibility, but for the most part, we should be eating a primarily whole food based diet. Guys, I'm sorry. My damn cat has locked himself in the bedroom because he didn't. Let me just get my cat. Sorry. I had to stop and do that because last time I made that mistake, I actually didn't do that. He freaking tore up the carpet. And I was just paranoid that he was going to tear up the carpet again. Anyways, so as I was saying, we can fit those things in, but when you're a performance-based athlete, you will see more of that. Performance-based athletes often have longer training sessions, so you might see more intra-workout carbohydrates playing a factor. But again, these people aren't focused on like controlling their calories. Something I will say is often a mistake is those of you guys that have like aesthetic-based goals and you're in a deficit. I honestly don't recommend a lot of like liquid calories and liquid carbs and those fast acting carbs because you're going to be hungry. Those athletes, when they get hungry again, they're like, I'm just going to eat, because they're not focusing on fat loss. But if you're in a deficit and you're like drinking, so Ignition is a great product, but like if you're drinking 45 carbs, like think about how much food you could have eaten for the same amount of calories, right? So those are the things that we have to watch out for if your goals are aesthetic based. Now, the last piece of all of this, and I kind of started to tease about this a little bit earlier, is that the extremes and knowing that like snapshots of reality are often what we see on Instagram, is we need a periodized approach to nutrition. And this is where a lot of people go wrong on all ends of the spectrum. Okay. So like CrossFit Games athletes, they periodize their training. They're not going to be, if they do have goals for fat loss, they're not going to be doing that, 2 months before the CrossFit Games. They're going to be doing that now, like when their goals aren't focused on it. They did, if losing weight would help them perform better, now is when they're going to do that. They're not going to be doing that in the season. And for those of you guys that are wanting to go through a fat loss phase, you have to look at periodizing this, probably more so about your lifestyle and looking at what part of your life you're in. And right now is probably a great time for a lot of people who are coming off of a lot of summer vacations to take the next 12 weeks to work towards fat loss. And when I say that, it's because I know that you might have more than 10 pounds to lose. But when we take a periodized approach to our goals, we don't burn out, right? So like, even though a CrossFit Games athlete might, or maybe you're aspiring to be a higher level athlete, you can't just burn yourself into the ground to try and get as far as you can by next June, right? You're going to have to take a periodized approach to your training, and it might take you a couple of years to get there. With your fat loss phases, you might want to do the same thing. You're doing almost like intervals. So you're like, I'm going to go for like 12 weeks of really working towards fat loss. I'm going to maintain, and then I'm going to do it again. And when you build those breaks in, you actually allow your body to maintain a lot easier. You don't end up having that big yo-yo. A lot of people do strict restrictive diets and then they go off the wagon. And we want to create a plan that's actually just, fat loss and then maintenance and then fat loss and then maintenance. And so you get to where you want to be. And that's a long-term goal or a long-term process to helping you actually maintain whatever goals or whatever results you create. I can't even talk right now. So periodizing your nutrition is very important. I also think there is something to be said about how many people are afraid of eating too much food. In fact, like I feel like a prerequisite for anybody that wants to lose weight is you should be able to eat over 2,000 calories. Like I can't tell you how many women are afraid of eating more than that. Like, and I know that they eat more than that because you don't gain weight eating less than 2,000 calories a day. You don't. It would be very, very, very hard to gain weight eating less than 2,000 calories a day. So just something to be said about that. But anyways, I hope this episode does help you guys out. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is I do have a special offer this week. Affiliate, call it, what do I want to call it? An affiliate offer, affiliate discount, we'll call it, affiliate program. If you are a CrossFitter and you are a member of a CrossFit gym, you can reach out to me. You can DM me or you can send me a message. I'm offering a special rate for those of you guys that do work out at an affiliate. And when I thought about doing this a couple of months ago, I may actually end up keeping it a permanent staple. The CrossFit community is something that I've always felt really, I'm grateful for the CrossFit community. It saved my life in a lot of ways. It gave me confidence in a lot of ways. I'm grateful for everything that I've accomplished in the CrossFit community. My cat's on the screen with you guys if you see him. But I just know that devoting the money, the investment in a CrossFit gym is expensive. In fact, I think back to when I first started CrossFit, I was mopping the floors for a gym membership for years, right? Because that was what I could do. It's not cheap, and it also is a time commitment, and it's a mental commitment as well. And I wanted to do something to give back to the people that, obviously, I know a lot of people spend 30, 40 bucks a month on a gym membership, and most CrossFitters are spending 150, 200, some of you guys 250 bucks a month on your CrossFit gym membership. And that's not cheap. And I know that you know the value in that. And I know that nutrition coaching is honestly, in a lot of ways, a higher price because I do a lot more with my clients. It's not just a class that you're getting. I do a lot of deep dives. Clients have access to me whenever they need to. But I wanted to offer a special offer for my CrossFitters out there that are in an affiliate and do have to pay that high fee. And I am doing it until Friday. So if you are interested in that, you can just shoot me over a message. You can DM me, Instagram. I'll put that in here as well as, or on Facebook, or you can send me an email, whatever works easier for you. I should put my phone number in here too, but I won't do that. And that's pretty much it. I would love to hear from you guys. If you guys want some help with that, I'm going to go over to the comment section right now. All right. Good morning, guys. What's up? Corey, Lex was on, and Damien. Yes. Did you see him come on the screen? He definitely gets all up in my business when I'm doing my videos. I think he thinks I'm on a conversation with somebody. I guess I kind of am, but like I do my check-in videos here too for my clients, and I'll be sitting there. He just comes over, starts rubbing up on me, whatever. So my mother tried to get me to get another cat because she found a kitten, and I'm like, I can't. Gotta keep one cat for right now. But and Lex, yes, I would agree. I wish my cat could open the door, but I don't know. He's pretty low maintenance. He's pretty chill. So, all right, guys, that's what I got for today. If you guys have any other questions about nutrition, especially regarding performance or aesthetics or whatever it is your goals are, let me know. I would love to hear from y'all, and we'll go from there. See y'all soon.